What's up, YouTube? I'm here doing my prediction video for UFC 266. Let's start them on. The first fight is Jonathan Pierce versus Omar Morales. To me, I think Jonathan Pierce is kind of more like a pressure volume guy, as where Omar has really, really good just standard kickboxing. He has great takedown defense and he's super powerful. And I think he's just going to overwhelm Jonathan Pierce in this fight. I think Pierce likes to mix striking and grappling, and I think Omar is the better striker, and I think he has strong enough takedown defense to where he can keep Pierce off of him. I just think that Omar's going to be able to pick him apart from the outside, and I wouldn't be surprised if Omar gets like a late TKO just because, like I said, I think he's the much better striker, and I don't think Pierce is just going to be able to bully him. I think it's going to be the opposite. I think Omar's going to bully Pierce and eventually win by knockout or TKO or a strong 30-27 decision. Next is Matthew Semelsberger versus Martin Sano, and this is no offense. I think Martin Sano's only getting this shot in the UFC because he's like one of the guys that trains with Nick Diaz. His record's like 4-2. I think Matthew Semelsberger is significantly better than this guy. I think Sano's just a jiu-jitsu guy. I think Semelsberger's got too good takedown defense to get taken down, and he's way better of a striker. I think Semelsberger's just going to light him up on the feet and eventually win by knockout TKO. Next is Cody I can't say his last name, versus Nick Maximov. To me, both these guys are really strong wrestlers, so it's really going to come down to just who has the better wrestling, and I'm leaning towards Nick. I do think this fight's going to be really close and back and forth. I think that Cody, a lot of people, they're just going to remember his fight from the Contender Series because he lost, but that fight was kind of BS in my opinion because he took down what's-his-face, William Knight, had Mount, and then William Knight was just holding on to him as hard as he could, and then the ref stood him up when Cody had Mount, and then that changed the whole dynamic of the fight because really, I mean, it was barely halfway through the round when the ref stood him back up. I mean, if William Knight had to stay on his back the whole round, the way he was just holding his arms, he probably would have been super tired going into round 2, even if nothing happened. Just because holding on to someone that tight is probably going to burn your arms out. Either way, I thought that was a little BS, so that one loss on his record is kind of stupid. So I am picking Nick. I do think he's the stronger overall wrestler. And the better jiu-jitsu guy, definitely. But I do think this fight's really close, a lot closer than people think. Next is Yorgos Medic versus Jillian Turner. And I think Medic is just a little bit better everywhere. I think Jillian is a really good striker with some decent jiu-jitsu. But I think Medic is just a little bit faster on the feet and a little bit more technical on the ground. I do think this fight is also really close because these guys they don't have similar styles, but I think overall they're very close. It's not like a huge gap for Medic. I think he's just a little bit better in both. So I could absolutely see Jillian Turner winning this fight just because it's just one of those fights where whoever's looking better that night's probably going to win. But I just think if these guys will come in at their best, I think, like I said, Medic is just a little bit better. So I think Medic is probably going to win by either TKO or submission, depending on if he gets this fight to the ground or not. Next is Roxanne Modafferi versus Tilia Santos. And my thing with Santos is I think she's a little small for this weight class. She's a strong wrestler, but that's about it. I think that, she already has a loss in the UFC, and I felt like that one loss was just because she had a hard time controlling a really good jiu-jitsu tech that was just bigger than her. And I think that might be what happens in this fight. I think Roxanne, her strength is getting way better, and as long as she does a good job with kind of stuffing the takedowns a little bit, I think Roxanne could kind of edge out a decision in this fight. I think a lot of people think Tilly's just going to take her down repeatedly and control her. I don't think that's going to happen just because of how much bigger Roxanne's probably going to look than her. I think this fight's going to be really close, but I think Roxanne's going to win a close decision, probably 29-28, maybe even a split, but I just think as long as she's worked on her takedown defense in this fight and just kind of makes Tilly Santos work, I think Roxanne will win. Next is Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus, and I think the hype around Chris Daukaus is a little ridiculous. I feel like, yeah, I know he beat Alexei Oleinik in his last fight, but Oleinik's getting really old at this point, and then the other two guys he fought weren't good strikers. I'm not saying Shamil's like the greatest striker ever, but he has good striking. We've seen him knock out really good guys, and like his striking defense is really good too. I also think he is a phenomenally huge advantage in the grappling. Like, it's so weird that people aren't talking about that. Like, people act like Shamil doesn't have this huge wrestling advantage over Chris Daukaus. That's probably what's going to happen in this fight. I feel like if Chris can't knock him out in the first few minutes, I think Shamil's just going to start to out-grapple him and just start beating him up on the ground. I think Shamil's definitely the best wrestler Chris has ever fought, and I don't know if he's going to be able to stop Shamil from taking him down. So I'm going to pick Shamil to win by either second or third round TKO from ground and pound. Next is Dan Hooker versus Nasrat Haqparast, and this is basically just two good strikers going at it, but I think Dan Hooker is just a little bit better. I don't really think either of these guys are going to go for takedowns. I just think they're going to be kickboxing the whole time, and I think Hooker's just going to edge out either a 29-28 decision or a 30-27 decision. There's not much to say, except for the fact that both these guys literally just got to Vegas like yesterday because they had to get last-minute visas, but I don't think, I mean, that affects them both equally, and I think both these guys, like I said, going in, we're just going to straight up kickbox with each other, and I think Hooker's just a better kickboxer. If it does go to the ground, I favor Hooker. He's the much better grappler, but I just don't see it going there. Next is Marlon Moraes versus Merab Dvalishvili, and I mean, Marlon Moraes is so, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen in this fight. It's like Marlon is either going to catch Merab with a huge shot in the first round, or Merab is just going to wear him down and win a dominant decision or get a late TKO. I feel like the latter is the much more likely. I feel like Marlon Moraes has not looked like the same Marlon since he went to American Top Team and left the Frankie Edgar's team in New York. It just doesn't seem like he has the same type of explosion, which is like all he ever really had was just how fast he would throw huge strikes. And it's like, if he's not going to do that, then there's not that much scary about his game. It's really just the threat of those huge shots. And it's like, outside of that, I mean, he's a black belt and he has some decent submissions, but I just think Merab has too good a gas tank to get caught in anything. And I really do feel like a lot of the submission attempts, unless he can hit them instantly, it's just, can Merab hustle out of them? And I think Merab can hustle out of any submission. So I just feel like Merab is going to do what he always does. At first, they're going to be kickboxing a little bit back and forth, and then he's going to just shoot for a ton of takedowns. And as this fight goes on, I think we're going to see Marlon get really tired. And I think come the third round, Marlon's just going to dominate him and probably win by TKO. On the main card, the first fight is Jessica Andrade versus, I think Dvalishvili. You know what I mean? Dvalishvili is going to continuously take down Moraes, and I can't remember if I said Marlon, but I'm picking Merab to win by TKO, obviously, in the third round with the cardio. Next is Jessica Andrade versus Cynthia Calvillo. To me, the only thing Cynthia has is strong wrestling, and I don't think that's going to do anything in this fight. I think Andrade is just as strong a wrestler, if not stronger. But the striking is ridiculously huge in Andrade's favor. Cynthia is really just kind of a technical striker. She fights long well, but that's about it. I think in terms of actual fighting stand-up ability, Andrade is like 5 times better than her. And I think that's just what we're going to see. I think they're going to scramble on the ground a little bit, but I think Jessica's just going to beat her up continuously, and I wouldn't be surprised if she gets a finish in like the second or third round. I just think she's going to bully Cynthia until she eventually finishes her. So I'm picking Andrade. Next is Curtis Blaydes versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and this fight's really super simple. It's Rozenstruik is either going to catch Blaydes with a huge shot and knock him out, or Blaydes is just going to grapple the shit out of him and eventually win by TKO. And I think, realistically, I know Blaydes has been knocked out a couple times, but almost the vast majority of his fights is just him continuously taking dudes down and beating the crap out of them. I feel like, I know Ngannou and Derek Lewis caught him, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, 2 of the heaviest punchers in the division caught him, and I know Jairzinho's up there too. But I also think that Derek and Francis have much better takedown defense than Jairzinho. I think that Blaydes should be able to just continuously attack Jairzinho and pin him on the ground. It's just, as long as he doesn't caught with a huge shot, I think Curtis wins this fight 9 times out of 10. And I think, so I'm going to pick Curtis just because I think he's not going to get caught with that one huge shot. I think he's just going to ride out either a strong decision or a late TKO over Jairzinho. Next is Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler, and this is the thing. The fact that Nick won this fight at middleweight, and there's tons of rumors coming out that he probably got knocked out in training, and that's why he wanted this fight moved up. And there's a bunch of other factors. I do think Robbie Lawler just looks like he's in better shape overall. And Robbie Lawler, I know he's had injuries, but he has been fighting more consistently. Just everything kind of favors him. I feel like, we haven't seen Nick in forever. And Robbie Lawler, as long as he mixes up his strikes like he normally does and he doesn't just straight up box with him, I think he is the overall better striker at this point in their careers. Nick isn't really a strong wrestler, so I don't think he's going to really hit too many takedowns on Robbie. I know Nick's the better jiu-jitsu guy, and he can absolutely submit Robbie at almost any point in this fight. But like I said, I think Robbie's the stronger wrestler, and at this point, he's just been way more active. And even though he's had injuries, he's still training with guys like who is it? Like all those guys in Bellator, like Logan Storley and all that. So he's getting better still. He's still training, staying active, and because of that, I just think Robbie Lawler is gonna probably win this fight. I don't think it's gonna be as close as people think. I think Robbie might dominate this fight, but I'm gonna pick Robbie Lawler to win by either decision or late TKO. Next, we got Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy, and there's really not too much to say about this fight. I think Lauren's way too slow for Valentina. I think that on the ground, Valentina's significantly better. Lauren Murphy's biggest strength is that she's big and strong, but I think Valentina's just way faster, way more technical, and I think she's going to outpoint her on the feet and then take her down whenever she really wants to, and then beat her up on the ground. I think Valentina's going to win by submission sooner or later. Like I said, I think Lauren has the power. It'd be one thing if she was faster, but she's not as fast as Valentina. I think Valentina's just going to easily pick her apart for 3 rounds. 5 rounds. I say 3 because I think it'll be a 3rd round submission. But yeah, I'm going to pick Valentina to win by 3rd round sub. Finally, we got Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega, and I'm not going to lie, I want Brian Ortega to win this fight just because I want fucking Max Holloway to fight for the belt again, because that second fight with Volkanovski is BS. He clearly lost that fight. In my opinion, he lost it 4-1. I thought every round aside from the 4th, Max won. That's just my opinion, but yeah, he clearly lost the first 3, at least, but either way, I think the striking's pretty close in this fight. Volkanovski's probably a little bit better. My biggest thing is I think Brian Ortega's worked a ton on his overall wrestling, and I think that he doesn't really even need to take Volkanovski down. He just needs to kind of get close to him. He's so much taller than Volkanovski. I feel like if he can just tie up with him, he can turn this into a grappling match, and I think if this is at any point in time a grappling match, Ortega can submit him. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it'll be back and forth on the feet, but I think eventually Ortega will drag this fight to the ground somehow and win by submission. I don't know what round it'll happen in, and I think this fight will be really fun up until that point, but I'm going to pick Ortega to win by like round 3 or 4 submission. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.